during a video interview of the Houthi leaders, al-Houthi, the IDF, the Israeli Air Force specifically, gave his colleagues in the leadership of the Houthi the Nasrallah treatment. While watching their leaders on telly, in TV doing a speech, the IAF hit them, and probably some of the main leaders of the Houthis have been taken out. Looks like the prime minister, which is just a bureaucrat really, but nonetheless is the prime minister of the Houthis. It might have been taken out. Probably the defense guy. But the extent of the hit has not been confirmed. But looking at the explosion and hearing from the IDF what they were actually targeting, looks like they had information on the ground that gave them a window of opportunity to hit them. So, let's hope that in the next few days we'll find out there's no Houthi leadership left. After this, we're going to talk about the takeover of Gaza City by the IDF. IDF is moving into Gaza City, and of course the usual pro-Hamas people are crying foul because being an active scene of war, they have to reduce the amount of humanitarian aid distributed. Of course, because otherwise, if you send in people distributing aid, they will be killed, and the Israeli will be blamed for letting them die. So, another of those occasions where damn if you do, damn if you don't. And then as a third topic, we're going to talk about how the care in healthcare in Ireland is suggesting to stop using medicines and products coming from Israel in order to treat children. This comes specifically from a group of pediatricians or people involved to the care of children. So we're going to laugh on that one.
Yeah, so welcome indeed to the reality show, and welcome to Daniel and to Anders who are joining us for this episode. Thank you very much, guys. So let's start then with this first story, which is another example of the military success of Israel and the fact that it's able to do these precision strikes. So let me come to you, Anders, first of all, for your reaction to the fact that they may well have struck the entire military and government elite of Houthis and eliminated them, or at least a substantial chunk of them. And as Marco mentioned there, it might include the defense minister.
True. Sorry, am I cutting out?
No, you can go ahead.
All right.
Sure.
So if this turns out to be true, it's obviously a move in the right direction. Whenever Israel can take out some of its enemies, that's I guess a step forward. But the flip side of it is that it is another piece in what I call Israel's whack-a-mole war. They do this in response to aggression against them. There doesn't seem to be an overall strategy for how to end this. For instance, connecting this with Iran and the supposed takeout of their nuclear capacity, and then the subsequent abandonment of taking out the regime. What does that mean for Yemen? I mean, is the spigot still open with Iranian support going to the Houthis, or have they just stashed so much weaponry that they can continue for a long time to pummel Israel with additional rocket attacks and so on and so forth? I don't know. But until the source is taken out once and for all, the Houthis will probably rise from the ashes again. We know that Hezbollah is severely crippled for now, but they're not completely taken out in Lebanon. And obviously Hamas then in Gaza, it should have been gone a long time ago, but there seems to be a lack of an overall strategy from the Israeli side. And that's why I call it a whack-a-mole war, where it's kind of a defensive, reactive approach in many cases, with a few good exceptions, like the pager attack in Lebanon and so on and so forth. But I guess we can be cautiously optimistic, but from what we've seen from past attacks, similar attacks, it doesn't really solve anything long term.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I particularly find it interesting the fact that you actually raised the Iranian situation, because we know that the Houthis are part of the three-prong attack on the West, specifically on Israel, with Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthi themselves. Iran is actually founding these three groups in order to attack Israel, if you like, under the radar of an open attack. And the reason why the IDF actually hit them, the Air Force hit them, is because in the recent days, the Houthis have kept launching ballistic missiles at Israel. Only the other day, they threw a cluster bomb missile. A cluster bomb, for if you don't know about it, it's effectively a warhead which is not designed to create a big, massive crater and destroy lots of stuff, but it's designed to break up halfway through, and then deliver a cargo of up to 500 small bomblets, which are not causing a massive damage. Although, if it comes through your roof and hits you, it's going to be a massive damage. But they're designed actually to mostly not explode, so they are scattered on the ground, and they are designed to hit civilians. People have curiosity, tend to see what happened, and when they touch them or get near them, they explode and cause a small amount of damage, but a catastrophic amount of damage if you are involved in explosion. So these are bombs, weapons designed actually to hit the civilian population, and that came from the Houthis. And the Houthis, we know they are just a bunch of savages, surely wouldn't be able to produce it themselves, and they definitely come from Iran. All the weapons, all the money that comes to the Houthis that they use to attack Israel is funded by Iran. Daniel, we've been making a point on this channel for nearly 2 years that Iran is really the head of the snake. Iran is behind all the October the 7th attacks, is behind all the attacks in the past. And we were pushing for Iran to be effectively decapitated. The Islamic Republic shouldn't have been around at all at this point. How do you react to this latest event? I mean, should the Houthis be still around?
I mean, again, this is sort of like great to see, and should happen. And the whole it kind of reminds me of on the Daily Objective we played a video from the Israeli ambassador to America who said how a nation that can in 72 hours take out Iran's capability to defend itself on air completely, yet we are still in Gaza, coming on 2 years or yeah, 2 years. It's gonna be in 2 months. And and yeah, it's the exact thing. Like if we had the proper morality of understanding that all of the deaths are on the enemy side, then we can bomb the hell out of the Houthis, and it's all on them. We can bomb the hell out of Gaza, bomb the hell out of Iran, and we all together understand that this needed to happen because they've chosen to do so. Yet something is keeping us back. And that something is making it impossible for us to ever, I mean, pretty much ever finish anything, right? It's always gonna be, it almost reminds me of that. There is like an onion piece about the foundation of Israel that, which is something like because the current politicians or current administrators at the UN were afraid that the future writers would have nothing to write about, or future journalists would have nothing to write about. They set up this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, so forever future generations will have something to comment on. But this is kind of how it actually feels. The fact that decade after decade we are still figuring out a way to basically never actually finishing this. We didn't take out the Soviet Union, and then we had to deal with that. Now with Russia and Ukraine. Communist China was able to come into power because of the Soviet Union. Iran was able to come into power because of both sort of Soviet Union and our inaction to actually do anything about Iran when it was founded. And then decade after decade when they tried developing a nuclear weapon. So it really does feel like we are just we are like a year away if we had like the proper philosophy, we're like a year away from like an actual world peace. But continuously we are choosing to make it so this conflict and whatever conflict it is will go on forever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wanted to thank our super chatter, Unusual AI, for your generous super chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your support. Keeps us on the air, keeps us producing the daily programs like this, doing the courses and the conferences, which are all done by this channel. So thank you very much for your support. Very grateful. Now, one of the things that I think is particularly interesting about this is the ability for Israel, as usual, to have such real-time live intel, know exactly where people are, be able to take a very narrow window of opportunity and to use it to such devastating effects. And of course, when it comes to disrupting the leadership of these terrorist organizations, where we know that information is contained very tightly within a very small group, it can lead quite a bit of devastation in terms of their ability to continue fighting and controlling their assortment of people all over the place and where knowledge is kept. And I think that if this defense minister, who's one of these who's reportedly killed, he's been in the role since 2016 and is the most senior Houthi military guy. So if they have managed to get him in the course of this, that would be absolutely great, as well as the effect generally of getting so many key figures all at once. Now, obviously, there is a battle of narratives going on, where obviously the Houthis are claiming that the legitimacy and the accuracy of this strike is not what the Israelis say it is. But we don't need Houthi confirmation to know how good the Israeli intelligence is. And I'm sure the precise names of who's killed will emerge in the next few days anyway. And those people can only be shown again on TV if they are alive. And there's a fair chance that they are not, but by the look of this. So Anders, let me ask you a question, which I think is almost tongue-in-cheek, given what Marco said about cluster bombs, etc., but nevertheless is highly relevant, I think. I mean, to say this with a straight face, was the Israeli response to the cluster bomb proportional, and do the Israelis risk escalation by striking the Houthi leadership?
Yeah, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, isn't it? Uh, because you probably know my answer. I think it was definitely not proportionate. It was well under proportionate, or if that is a word. Israel should have responded massively a long time ago, actually. And if I may say so, the US should have chimed in taking out the Houthis and if for no other reason, clearing the Red Sea for commercial traffic, because I think there are still shipping companies who avoid that area because of the threat of the Houthis to their shipping. So in that sense, no response almost, I would say, is too little when it comes to these attacks. So that I think answered the first part of your question. What was the second part?
Well, does it risk escalation?
No, I don't think so. I think on the contrary, I mean, showing a massive force is the only thing that will keep them back, and to convince them that this is a war that they will lose. There is no chance of winning it, and that again involves not only taking out the Houthis directly, but taking out the head of the snake, as you said earlier, and take out the current regime in Iran once and for all.
Yeah. You mentioned actually hitting shipping and the interest of the United States. Of course, the United States last May did a deal with the Houthis. Effectively, Trump told them, hit my interest and I'm going to bomb the hell out of you. But unfortunately, the Israeli did the same a few months ago when they negotiated a truce with the Houthis. And what happens? Well, the Houthis, as usual, break the truce. Every time the Israelis are silly enough to believe these savages and give them a moment of respite, then the savages attack again. Every time there is a truce, Gaza comes out with rockets, Hezbollah through rockets, and any kind of appeasement that Israel has tried for the last 80 years really is always literally blown up on their faces.
Yeah,
And
and obviously it buys them time, right, to rearm and
exactly,
to set up again for the next round of attacks. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a suicidal strategy of Israel um, to go into any truce or ceasefire arrangement with any of these groups.
yeah, yeah. Daniel, I mean, let's remind people that the slogan of the Houthis on their flags, they say death to America, death to Israel, a curse on the Jews, and victory to Islam. So how on earth are we going to deal with these guys? I mean, can we sit around the table and as Anders said, achieve some sort of deal with them?
Yeah, maybe we just offer, half of our lives. I mean, again, there is proportionate, words have meaning, and proportionate also has a specific meaning. When somebody gets arrested for doing murder, a proportionate thing to do that we understand sort of that achieves justice is not to kill that person, maybe, in specific circumstances, but we understand, okay, you no longer see the light of day. And in a similar way, for a nation or a group like the Houthis, for them to start this war or join this war rather, the proportionate thing to do is to wipe them out. That's the proportionate thing, not to bomb them the exact same way that they bombed us or kill the same amount of people they have killed. It's to recognize the nature of our relationship. The nature of relationship between the Houthis and Israel is that of violence because the Houthis have chosen to do so. Israel should recognize that relationship and end the Houthis. That's the only way to really deal with it, and let whatever opposition is there in Yemen, let them rise up if they want and fill in the place after the Houthis. But again, if another group comes up and they want to do the same thing to Israel, Israel should do the same thing. And not only Israel, the Houthis are the enemies of the world. They've attacked international shipping. Every west, every Western, every Eastern, every single first, second, third, and fourth world country has been attacked directly or indirectly by the Houthis. The world should have an interest in taking out the Houthis.
Yeah, I mean, just last July, they sank a Greek ship, and they left the crew in the sea. Effectively, they didn't help them. Another ship came along and picked them up from the water. And also in July, they sank. They took over another ship, a cargo ship. They probably are holding hostages from the crew, and three of them were killed. And then they again sunk the ship. So these guys are only 350,000, but they are vicious little bastards, aren't they? And they are not really out there to negotiate some kind of achievement, some kind of victory. They're just there to cause as much damage and killing as they can, of course, propped up by Iran. It's not a surprise that Iran now is dealing with the European leaders in order to try and get away with more enrichment of the uranium, which has never stopped, by the way, even after the American attack. So, are we really waiting for Iran to build a nuke?
Yeah, and I think some of the response to this is quite interesting, isn't it? Because on these shows, I often like to read out some flavors of quotes from different sides to show how they're responding to any given event. And of course, although I could come up with a bunch of Arab quotes from various Arab leaders condemning this action by Israel, when it comes to Israel's supposed allies and friends, there's a surprising absence of reaction whatsoever or quotes whatsoever in support of having taken out this Houthi leadership. And doesn't that speak volumes, quite frankly? And to be honest, a lot of the commentators who have reported on this and within the media, certainly in the West, have also talked about the combative rhetoric. And by that, they don't mean the death to America, the Houthis claim, or the death to Israel or any of that. They mean when Israel Katz says that Israel is going to cut off the hand of those who threaten Israel. And this being a demonstration of precisely that. and that is a demonstration of the principle of self-defense because of the Houthis' constant attacks on Israel. And the fact that they're able to do this kind of precision attack at a distance of 1,100 miles, some 1,800 kilometers from Israel, with this live intelligence is truly remarkable. So, I mean, what do you make to the response? Anders, let me come to you. What do you make to the response of this, and what does it say about where we're at right now, given that this is a war that is not just about the military strikes, but it's also about the PR side of things as well?
Well, I think there are probably several dynamics going on here with respect to the Houthis. I mean, we know that the Houthis are Shia, and I think it's a fairly substantial share of Shiites in Yemen. So you have the Sunni versus Shia thing here, and I think a lot of Arab states are secretly happy that Israel is doing the dirty work for them, if you want to call it that way. I mean, I don't mean that it's dirty work, but the Saudi Arabians don't have to soil their hands, because you wonder that, I mean, one of the US's supposed agreements, I think, with Saudi Arabia is that, we're providing them with weapons so that they can fight the Houthis, because Saudi Arabia see the Houthis as a threat. Saudi Arabia being Sunni, and the Shiites in the Houthis are obviously an enemy of that in the long run. So the fact that we don't hear much coming out of the Arab world when Israel does this, and I don't think there were too many complaints when they took out Hezbollah as well. I think there is, I mean, it's a show of strength on Israel's part, that's one thing. But then also I think that Israel is actually helping out some of these Arab states by taking care of their dirty laundry.
Yeah. It's quite ironic that the capital of the Houthi, if you like, is the city of Sada, which is a few miles from the border with Saudi Arabia. So if Saudi Arabia really felt the threat, they could have hit them ages ago.
Absolutely, yeah.
Daniel, same question to you, I suppose. What do you make of the reaction or the lack of?
Well, just quickly, Saudi Arabia did strike the Houthis back in I think like 10 years ago. So they did feel
With a tennis ball.
Oh, wait, what?
With a tennis ball.
With a tennis ball.
Sorry, what was the question?
Well, your reaction to the lack of reaction, really. I mean, this is something that we're celebrating, obviously, on this channel as a big military success and a big, and it's nice to have some positive news related to the war. But where is the cheering from the allies of Israel?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, nobody really cares. Nobody really cares about the suffering of Palestinians either. It's just in to go after Israel currently. Again, like if the news were to be sort of like proportionate to the suffering that is being caused, then we would constantly talk about Congo or Sudan or even Yemen, that had actual starvation in the past, had children starvation in hundreds of thousands. We will talk about this, but no, it's certain ideology, it's certain things that are being pushed, and what is being pushed by a lot of sort of like leftist activists in West right now is the Palestinian issue. So that is what is being focused on. So I mean, it's not surprising. It's what you would expect, but it's definitely disappointing, sad, makes you want to not watch the news and just go into cabin in the woods because the world is no longer worth to take a look at.
But don't despair, Daniel. Don't despair. There is hope for the world, absolutely. And the philosophy of objectivism is the best way, as I know you know, of ensuring that we have a message that is positive. And anybody who is not familiar with it should certainly take a look at Objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, and see the ways in which it can improve both your own life and how the world should be run, really. But of course, you can only start with yourself. So yeah, that's obviously the best way. But I think we can move to the second story and look at what's going on in Gaza at the moment, in Gaza City in particular, which has been declared a combat zone because for the moment, Israel is trying to win. And in order to win, it needs to destroy the last stronghold of Hamas, which is Gaza City. And that hence the strikes that is taking place on Zaytun, the area of Gaza City in particular. And of course, the fact that it is trying to destroy the terror infrastructure that's both above ground and below ground. I think the early stages of this are in place. We're talking about calling up, 60,000 plus reservists in order to be able to support this action. So there's that aspect to it as well. But Anders, what's your reaction so far then to what's going on in Gaza City right now in terms of all this talk of a humanitarian pause whilst they actually try and destroy Hamas right in the heart of Gaza itself?
Well, I guess in a sense, better late than never. It'll be interesting to see if Israel actually carries out this to its logical end this time and really clears Gaza City of Hamas and the rest of the Gaza Strip for that matter. Or if they're still going to be hamstrung by the fact that we have the hostages that are still remaining in Gaza in Hamas's captivity, which again, we have said it before here many times that it's a terrible ordeal for the families involved, but for Israel as a state to continue to sacrifice its citizens, IDF soldiers and others, over and over again in order to hopefully, possibly rescue additional hostages is a fool's errand. I think that best describes it. Yeah, I'm again, cautiously optimistic. This is something that should have happened a long time ago. It could have happened within the first 6 months after the war started, but it just has dragged out more and more. And as a consequence, Israel has been subject to all these allegations of I don't even want to use the word genocide because it doesn't apply here, but then the humanitarian disasters. And of course, there's humanitarian disasters, but don't forget, Hamas started it. It's their fault. And the only thing I can accuse Israel of is not having mopped this up in a much quicker fashion than what it has.
Yeah. And although it's good to see Israel that's finally make the decision, let's win the war, let's wrap it up by taking over Gaza itself. I don't agree with the way they're doing it. You shouldn't put boots on the ground because it's way too dangerous. You don't need to risk the life of more Israeli soldiers in order to what? To spare a few Gazan civilians. They started the war. They are still holding the hostages. So if they die, it's because they don't surrender. So Gaza City should be bombed to smithereens, and the life of Israeli soldiers should be protected as much as you can, rather than putting them in danger. But then of course, going into Gaza, making Gaza City itself a theater of war, an active combat area, means that the humanitarian aid will find difficulty to be delivered. And of course, we haven't heard anyone praising the fact that the Houthis have been awfully decapitated, and therefore, all the attacks that they made on ships in the Western, hopefully will be reduced. But the allies, so-called allies of Israel, are quite quick to jump on the bandwagon and accuse Israel of making the humanitarian crisis even worse. How do you feel about this one? I mean, should Israel stop war and distribute food to their enemies?
I mean, I wish they made the humanitarian situation worse. Then we could actually, get somewhere when it comes to fighting this war. I mean, this whole situation makes me like really want to go, back into the past and kick Kane's butt for ushering the phrase, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Because since he said that, now that has been assumed that yes, you are your brother's keeper, and this is exactly what's happening in Gaza. The fact is, and many people who maybe I'm talking to people in the chat as well. Many people who have self-esteem have sometimes had this feeling of really seeing some pitiful person wanting for you to take care of them, or basically trying to extract some kind of I guess pity from you. But if you understand sort of like your nature, and if you understand what that they sort of are the reason why they are what they are, you can walk away without a single like ounce of guilt for walking away. And this is something that Israel is lacking. That the fact is that Israel feels responsible for Palestinian. This is what Netanyahu says almost in every speech, right? Freeing Gaza from Hamas. It feels responsible for basically making sure Hamas is no longer with the Palestinians. But no, we have to realize that this is the reality the Palestinians have want. This is something they've chosen on October 7th, but long before that, when they've decided to elect Hamas, when they decided to not stand up against Hamas. So we need to respond in kind. We need to go into Gaza City. We should have been there a long time ago. We need to occupy all of Gaza and let them know that no, we no longer pity them. They've brought this reality on themselves.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Ayn Rand made the point in an interview when asked, should civilians be hit when they go to war with somebody else? She answered something like, well, if you could insulate the citizen from the action of their own state, that would be the neatest trick ever. And of course, we know that Hamas is the Palestinian voting for Hamas, supporting Hamas, are still supporting it in a way or the other. So, as the great envoy that we love so much for the Palestinian, Francesca Albanese said, I mean, she made the point that every German was a Nazi, but she doesn't extend it to the Gazans for somehow. The Gazans don't seem to be Hamas.
And
Well,
this
she
seems to,
does. Every Jew is a Nazi. She does use the same comparison.
yeah, absolutely. And yet, what the IDF is finding as they're exploring within Gaza City and entering the various buildings is lots of the civilian buildings are set up as a military array. Essentially, that individual houses, which look like civilian houses, also contain explosives and weapons and RPGs and uniforms for as well in some cases. Not that they always wear uniforms either, of course, the Palestinian civilians when fighting for Hamas. And of course, this is part of the problem. The fact that it's been thought that this area had been defeated before, this particular Zaytun battalion of Hamas had been defeated before, and yet the level and extent of the tunneling underneath has only really come to light during the course of the last 2 years. The fact that it's larger than the New York subway network is only coming to light. They managed to destroy a 1 kilometer tunnel the other day. And I think one of the things that the IDF is trying to do here is be much more systematic this time round about blocking off the exits of tunnels around the area of Gaza City and work systematically across in order to ensure that that the infrastructure cannot be reused at a later date by a different batch of fighters or terrorists, particularly when there's supposedly 400 in this particular battalion. I wanted to thank Bronx Guy Gun Hill Road with his super chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I mean, the fact that this is called Gideon's Chariots 2, and there shouldn't always be a sequel, to you should make sure the first film is is good enough. Anders, what do you think? I mean, is this Groundhog Day? Are we looking at just the extent of the of this going on and on by doing it so piecemeal and so gently, or have we actually seen a step up here, a change of way in which this is done, which will actually ensure that a military solution is possible, and in fact is a military solution possible on its own?
Oh, yeah, to answer your last question, I think definitely a military solution is possible. I don't think it's a, I mean, yes, Hamas has all these tunnels and things like that, but in the context of world conflicts, I don't think this is a particularly difficult task to finish if the will is there, you know, and I think it's the lack of will and the conflicting goals that is hampering and holding back the Israelis. I think your question about the Groundhog Day, I think that's a pretty apt description because that's how I feel about it. And I mentioned initially that I call this a whack-a-mole war, you know, because Israel in its capacity to reactive capacity largely in this war is it's you know, they're whacking a mole and then he comes up in another hole and they whack it again and that just keeps going and going and I mean I fear that this latest um, offensive or whatever you want to call it in Gaza City will be just another instance of that. I hope I'm wrong, but if the last 2 years have taught us anything, it is that unfortunately there is that lack of overall strategy and willingness to actually win the war for some reason.
Daniel, I mean, you've been discussing this for 2 years. You know, we are in and out, but you are here every day, really. So, do you think this Gaza City event, this moving into Gaza City, will help, or do you think it's just a way for Netanyahu to make it look like something is happening towards a possible conclusion?
I mean, depends what the goal is. I don't know what is in Netanyahu's head. I don't know if the goal is to just get some sort of a deal, finally, and I mean finally in a bad way, to basically put the end to this. I don't really know what other solution can you have now besides deportation or occupation. I mean, if Israel, I think Israel will occupy all of it, at least temporarily. The official story is that they will afterwards they will give it to some Arab coalition, whatever, that would de-radicalize Gaza. Now, even finding somebody to like take care of Gaza is going to be problematic unless it will go back to the Palestinian Authority. But I think then we are basically back where we started. So again, I think Israel is sort of going in the right direction by occupying it. But unless it realizes what actually needs to happen and that Israel has to be the one occupying and de-radicalizing it, I feel like this operation will simply risk the lives of IDF soldiers for basically nothing, since we will just give it to somebody else.
I think one of the issues here is that in a few weeks' time, the UN will start a General Assembly, and the usual cretins, France, Germany, Britain, will try and recognize the state of Israel. Sorry, Palestine. If
They
they
would
could,
never recognize the state of Israel.
if they could unrecognize the state of Israel, they would do quite happily. Yeah, they're going to try and create legitimacy for the Palestinian state. And of course, you know, we know perfectly well what this means. It means effectively rewarding the people who committed October the 7th. So I don't understand what these people are thinking.
I think, and they're being rewarded all over the place, all the different aspects of this, aren't they? I mean, for example, look at the former president of Columbia University, you know, Minouche Shafik, who's just being appointed the chief economic advisor to Keir Starmer in the UK. So you leave Columbia University because of your allowing anti-Semitism to fester on your campus, and your reward for that is to take a job working directly for the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, who is also, at the same time, there's a global defence exhibition coming up in London, isn't there? And the Israeli delegation has been denied the right to come to London to attend that exhibition.
Well,
How is that representing your allies? Go
yeah,
ahead, Dan.
she was lucky that this happened now because she was kicked out of Colombia for being too anti-Semitic. But if she tried to join Labour about what, like 5 years ago, then she wouldn't actually be anti-Semitic enough to join Labour. So thankfully, since few people left the Labour, now it's she's the right kind of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and she's going to be the economic advisor to the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. She's been married to the former CEO of PIMCO, so she knows a lot about economy.
And yes, at the same time, you've got some news, which is also, I don't want to say it's positive because it's a stretch to say the least, but the fact that UNIFIL might be coming to an end and the 10,800 or so, I struggle to use the word peacekeepers in relation to these people who so frequently have supported the activities of Hezbollah when trying to attack Israel in terms of their equipment, their bases, and their intel. But anyway, peacekeepers might be actually leaving at the end of 2026.
Yeah, I've seen they extended it for another year.
Yeah, so and of course, that is just to push it into the long grass in theory, isn't it? To get it past the UN Council meeting, which you mentioned earlier, and whatever PR outcome for the Hamas and Palestinian side comes out of that, to see whether it will even happen at all at any stage. I mean, it's a messed up situation, isn't it, to say the least?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as the leaders in the West haven't realized that this is a fight between the civilized countries versus the savages. I mean, what has Palestine ever done for humankind? What has the Arab culture ever added to, well, certainly in the last 1,000 years or so, added to progress in humankind? I mean, come on, we are seeing a civilized, productive place who's providing all sorts of innovation in many fields, which is struggling to exist, and everyone seems to be against it. We don't know exactly why. We don't know exactly why the West, the elites in the West, are so against Israel. Why they're peddling this line of rewarding the Palestinians for doing October 7? Why emboldening the people who want to destroy civilization? So, I mean, you have a free state trying to survive, and a bunch of savages who want to push Islamic totalitarianism, and they come up in favor of the totalitarian state of the Islamists. It's just beyond belief. But just to move on here, there is another news coming from super anti-Semitic Ireland. A bunch of consultants, medical consultants, which is senior doctors, have declared that they shouldn't, the healthcare shouldn't use medicines and products made in Israel in order to cure children at the Children's Health
Ireland, isn't it?
Children's
CHI.
Health Ireland is the name of the health institution. I mean, Anders, what do you make about this particularly stupid statement coming from a bunch of people who should look after the health of children and therefore presumably provide the best care?
Yeah, first, we should just be clear that, the Irish are a few million individuals. So what we're saying here, or what I'm saying here, doesn't apply to all of them. There are exceptions to the rule, but as a culture, as you said, that they're super anti-Semitic. They're very much against Israel, and that is probably deeply embedded in the Irish psyche after a few hundred years of conflict with their English overlords. And the gut reaction in any conflict around the world is to always root for the underdog, whether that underdog is morally and politically good or bad. And in this case, it's obviously the Palestinians right now. I don't know if the Irish actually rooted for Israel before 1967. That would be interesting to know. If any of our viewers know that history, you could maybe chime in in the chat. But so this is just another instance of this letter or demand or whatever you want to call it to not buy pharmaceuticals or medical equipment from this Israeli company Teva, Teva, I believe. So I'm not surprised to see that. It's sad, obviously, and just to make a quick comment about UNIFIL. I know that at least for a large period of time, a large contingent of the UNIFIL troops in southern Lebanon were Irish. And that's like putting the fox in the henhouse, because they were very sympathetic to Hezbollah. Again, we're talking about as a group, and there may have been and probably was individuals who did not share that sentiment. But having the Irish make up a large portion of those troops, is just ridiculous on the surface of it. And I think we see that in many of these instances when I think the Irish, if they haven't already acknowledged a Palestinian state, they're probably just about to do it. I'm sorry, I should know, but so I'm not surprised. It's disgusting, but unsurprising.
Yeah. Daniel, I mean the output, the production. What was the name? The thing I'm looking for. The amount of GDP coming in Ireland from services, half of it is on pharmaceutical. So I sometimes wonder if there's some sort of economic undertone to this statement from these 50 consultants. But also, do you think it's fair for sick Irish children to be treated with Palestinian medicines using Palestinian-made hospital equipment? Because as far as I know, they've never done anything.
Yeah, I mean, again, when we're talking about Ireland, we're talking about the country that during World War II, there was like, I don't know who the good guy is here, so I'm not gonna really join either side. Like this is the kind of, I'm maybe exaggerating, because Sweden did the same thing, so I'm not gonna let them off
Well,
the hook.
there were actually a lot of Irish people fighting for the Allies in the World War II. There were not a lot of Swedes, so.
Okay. But the country itself chosen to do
Yeah.
to stay neutral. I mean, yeah, this is the like again, this is the kind of thing that you would like read in an Onion piece, right? It's like doctors don't want to take Israeli medicine. I mean, it's hard to even comment on because of how, yeah, I mean, how irrational, how much do you have to be gone to like advocate for something like this? Now, even I think like the specific saying was something like, if there is like alternative medicine that we can use, we should do that. So at least they are not full anti-life in terms of being that basically, no, don't use any, like, yeah, if I have a choice between using something made by a Jew or saving a children's life, letting a children die, I would rather let a children die. But again, this is like this is where it starts. This amount of vilification of Israel again for like it would be a different scenario if we are talking about like boycotting like Russian products or boycotting Palestinian products, boycotting Iran, which is getting some snapback sanctions from EU finally at least. It will be like a different story. But we are talking about sanctioning a good country for defending itself. That's where the moral problem is. Not that there are sanctions, but that it's wrong reasons to do sanctions.
Yeah, and yeah, again, they're missing the point. Yeah, the fact that the political leaders support Palestinians against the only democratic state in the Middle East. And these guys who are supposed to be doctors, do no harm and Hippocratic oaths and all that. And then they rather boycott the people who actually produce lots and lots of innovation medicine. They produce massive amount of IP in terms of new drugs and experimental stuff and research and equipment. Just the hardware itself that is used in medicine and the new medicine themselves, the new pharmacological discoveries that Israel has done. It's just mind-bogglingly. Oh, it's not even comparable with the Palestinian one because the Palestinian haven't got any kind of culture. I mean, the Palestinian is a made-up ethnicity in the first place. It's just a political party, if you like. So there is not an alternative. So why are you supporting the side that's actually not producing anything, not doing anything, but actively killing?
Paul Moose makes the point in a super chat. He says, they said not to use Israeli medicine if alternatives are available. If they go through with it, Israel should put a complete medical embargo on Ireland. And yeah, I totally agree with you, Paul Moose. Thank you. Thank you for your super chat. And also to Ginger Clark for your support as well. Appreciate it. I think one of the things here is that these are pediatric consultants, 57 of them, who've demanded this. They're supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to work for the state regardless of who is their patient, for example. And of course, we've already seen in a number of settings, particularly in countries like Australia and the UK, where support for the Palestinians has frightened the patients of Israeli or Jewish patients who've come into contact with them when they're displaying support for Palestine or declaring worse as an ideology or a feeling that they have. I think here this particular pharmaceutical company makes both generic medicine and specialist medicine, and one of the points here is that the generic medicine is designed to be cheaper for a health service. But if you're saying that a health service can't choose that medicine because if you've got ideological beliefs that mean they shouldn't, or a certain group of doctors hold those beliefs which mean they shouldn't, it means that the taxpayer is ultimately going to have to pay more money for different medicine, simply to appease the supposedly impartial doctors with their current demands. I mean, how are they any different from any of those protesters on the Columbia campus, for example? It's the same principle at play, surely. I mean, Daniel, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the sort of the Columbia students, the campus intifada, and we've recently covered the Walkers intifada or the Workers intifada, whatever you want to call it, where a bunch of pro-Palestinian went into Microsoft office, the president of Microsoft office, and occupied it. They were all thankfully fired and I think even investigated by the FBI. But yeah, the fact that again something is happening in Gaza and Western companies are being sort of like targeted for, or Western universities, or American streets are being set on fire in some instances because of what is going on there. And again, if it was actually a just thing that is happening, I could excuse it, or I still couldn't excuse setting private property on fire, but I could see this sort of outrage. But it's a Western country defending itself that is pushing students, people who are working, people in medicine to target that specific country that is defending itself. That's what's, making me want to move into cabin in the woods.
Yeah. And Anders, would you prefer to be treated by a doctor or an activist?
A doctor or
an activist?
An activist. Well, I have to think about that really hard. So can I get back to you?
Absolutely, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous, and the fact that people feel emboldened everywhere to display their activism ahead of their professionalism is a sad indictment of the culture that we're all living in right now. And of course, the how the PR campaign and how the PR war is being fought in terms of the Israel Gaza conflict, and the fact that there are so many people willing to support the terrorists and the savages.
And to be honest, I mean, it's not just a matter of campaign. It's not about propaganda. It's about the fact that these stupid ideas, this kind of hate, is actually being put into action. We've seen the shooting of the embassy members in Washington, D.C. We've seen lots and lots of anti-Semitic instances playing out all across Europe. I mean, France the other day, somebody cut off the tree that was a reminder for the death of a guy who was killed because he was Jewish. Here in Britain, only a few days ago, the house of a rabbi was actually spray painted with a swastika. I mean, imagine if this kind of harassment happened to Muslims. I mean, it wouldn't make it right, because harassing somebody just because of the religion or the race they are, it's just wrong. But imagine if this kind of hate that we seem to tolerate in the West were directed to Muslim people. It would be an outcry. It would be a civil war. But no, because they're Jewish, we don't care. That's outrageous. That's something that we should absolutely condemn and fight back. Not just, oh well, the usual. I'm not a Jew, so it's not my problem. Well, it damn will be your problem. And there's any more comments and where people can find you?
No, I think you wrapped that up very well. People can find me on Substack, andersingemarsson.substack.com. My book, Think Right or Wrong, Not Left or Right, is available on Amazon. And I will be speaking at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference in Orange County, the US, at the end of October. And I hope to see a lot of our viewers there in person.
And you, Daniel, your closing thoughts and comments?
And people can find out more about the Irreplaceable Spark Conference by visiting objectivism.co.uk. Link to that is also in the chat and the description. And I mean, no more last thoughts. It's concerning the lack of rationality in the culture, but it's something that has been a problem for a long time and doesn't really make it hard to enjoy my own life. But I still like to sometimes get emotional about the state of the world, because my own life is going too well to, I need to balance things out. It cannot be all roses.
Yeah, and you're getting older, so being grumpy is just
Par for the course.
part of the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you again to Bournemouth for your second super chat. He says, looking back on when Doctors Without Borders refused to treat GHF personnel in Gaza, I guess unethical practice is a thing now. Yeah, absolutely. We're starting to see this in a number of different settings, in a number of different areas, haven't we? And there was another parallel drawn in Ireland, I think, where the Garda, the police there, have stopped using Israeli technology when it comes to tracking down the data for murderers. When it comes to pursuing mobile phone data, they were using an Israeli company and technology to do some of that, and they're now not doing that for the same reason that these consultants in this hospital in Ireland are requesting not to use Israeli medicine. So everybody's health and security ends up being at risk because of this activist attitude of a select few, and that is a cause for concern for all of us.
So it means that Irish will go misgendered and the police are not going to intervene. Terrible.
And the Israelis might have put some explosives in those telecom equipment. You never know.
Yes, well, and they're certainly good at their targeted attacks for sure. And I think, just to return to our top story, we do hope that their success with the Houthis will be proven to be what it seems. And obviously in future shows, we'll bring you up to date on the course of that. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Anders. Thank you to all our super chatters. And we'll be back tomorrow on this channel with the Daily Objective. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.